What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Stag Voiceover. My name is Neil Glasgow. So, in today's video, what I want to address is a couple of questions that I've got. Really, I get them all the time. And it's something to the effect of, when do I go pro? What is it that makes me go pro? Can I afford to go pro? How do I make this my full-time job? So I'm going to cover off what I think you should do before you go pro, and maybe just a couple of thresholds to make sure that, well, you don't really do yourself a mischief. So, with that in mind, let's get into it. So, when starting out in voiceover, the driver, I suppose, to be a voice actor or voiceover is that this can provide a really healthy income, a flexible lifestyle. You can work 2 or 3 hours a day and earn a really decent living. And that's all true. It just doesn't happen day one. And, we've talked about before how really you need to do a lot of things to get to that point. It's the very rare individual that even, going to theatre school or being in TV shows, whatever it is, the transition into voiceover isn't, a simple one. It's a completely different skill set. And what you tend to notice is named actors, people that have got their start in other things, transitioning over into voiceover. Now, of course, we do have some very established names, predominantly American names, into the voiceover industry. And I'm highlighting the American names because, well, that's where that industry is. You are either in, especially if you're doing anime stuff, you're either in Japan, Korea, or America. The UK market for anime isn't really there. And you will get production work on out-of-country production stuff. Okay? I'm highlighting that for you as a possible career stuff. So, what are the things that you need to look at if you're going to make this your full-time gig? Essentially taking it from your side hustle, is what a lot of people are calling it. Do it as my side job until I can make it my full-time job. And the first thing that I'm going to tell you to do is to get a separate bank account. This is what I did, okay? I got a separate bank account, and for the next 2 years, or for the first 2 years when I started out in voiceover, anything I earned in voiceover went into that account, okay? Now, this gave me two things. This showed the income I made over 12 months, and then the same income, or more, hopefully, over the next 12 months. And what that shows me is how much at my current level I could potentially be earning. And if you're not making 1.5 times what you're living on now, it's not time yet to make voiceover your full-time gig. Now, please be aware that voiceover is very much a boom and bust industry sometimes. And what I mean by that is you might have steady income coming in at, say, $200, right? You do a $200 gig every day. Not a bad gig, actually. But let's say you're doing amazing $200 gig every day for 5 days a week. And then you get the odd $5,000 job in, the odd $10,000 job in. All those big boom stuff, chalk it up to it's a lovely thing, but don't bank on it as repeatable income, essentially. So look at what your regular income is. And I've talked about, doing YouTube channels and work on Fiverr and all sorts of other stuff. I have weekly income, nearly $1,000 worth of weekly income just from YouTube work. Just a fact. And, I work with multiple channels. I record probably 20 videos a week between all the channels that I do. But that nets me a nice income. And it's an income that is supplemented by all the other stuff that I do. So, bank account, that's really important. And as I say, it's about making sure that you're earning enough to be able to transition away from whatever job you have. And that brings me to point 2. You need to have regular income coming in. Now, if you are just on the pay-to-play websites, if you're just on the free websites, you're not going to get there. You need to put the time and effort into this. And the reason I'm highlighting this, and I've highlighted it many times before, is I got a message today of a commenter on Reddit, and they essentially said that they've got a friend of theirs that's in voiceover. If you're watching this, hello. They've got a friend of theirs that's in voiceover, and basically they don't have the time to audition, so they just send out a generic reel on the auditions. And I think they said they're on voices.com when they do this. And that's kind of one of the biggest hills to get over, is the time commitment this job takes. I've done this job in parallel with other jobs. It's a straight line to burnout. It really is, because you'll be doing 16, 17, 18-hour days because you need to put in a good 5, 6, 7 hours into voiceover as well as whatever you're doing. And if you've got family commitments or whatever, you have to have the time to do this job. You're not just going to win a career. Very few people are going to win a career. It can happen, but chances are you're not one of them. So make sure that you budget your time really effectively. You need to get that. You need to get a good balance, a worthwhile balance that means that you can go out on audition, but that you're not relying on putting out money before you've got any income coming in, going to these pay-to-play websites, hoping to get a career. Because, again, as I've said many times before, you're in competition with such a massive, massive pool of candidates for each job. Now, what you do to combat that is you invest your time in your marketing, finding the right people at the right businesses to put your information out to directly. What most production houses, media production, entertainment, online media, pick an industry really, they will have a roster of people that they have on their books rather than, it's like if you're going to recruit someone, do you go to an agency or do you try to do it direct? Go to an agency, you're going to pay a premium for that and a fee. Or if you can go direct, you save all that money. That's kind of what this is. You're going onto their books. So you have to do that. So that's really the second step. And the third step to your career is getting an agent. I hesitate on these ones. I have multiple agents all over the world. And I've said before, I get most of my repeatable income through my own efforts. But the reality is, I have done auditions for Coca-Cola, House of Mouse, Warner Brothers, massive, massive organisations that I would never have got through my own efforts. And that's what an agent's for. And the agents bring you those windfalls. And if you have a serious aspiration to be in anime and cartoons and doing all the regular big scale stuff, chances are, in fact, reality is, you need to get hold of an agent. Neil, how do I get hold of an agent? How do I recognise a good agent? That's the key. So, recognising a good agent is really about looking at what their roster looks like, what their client base looks like. It's a relationship. You can ask who it is that they deal with, but also how plugged in they really are. So I have an agent in LA. He sends me lots and lots of work for all the big studios that are in LA. I don't get that same engagement from my agent that is in Bristol in the UK. He sends me different work and it's still good paying work, but I haven't seen anything that makes me believe that he could get me into, Marvel, for example. You need to have multiple agents and you need to get them on your side working for you. It's a very difficult thing to have an agent that, hey, I've got something that's come in and I'm putting it out to my entire network. And their network might be 30, it might be 10, it might be 100, right? You want someone who's working specifically for you, like a sports agent might do. They're advocating for you day in and day out. That's a real differentiator. And the last thing I want you to do before you go full-time as a voiceover or try to go full-time as a voiceover, I want you to set a date, right? And this essentially comes from my project management background. Set a date. This is your target, okay? So I've talked about 2 years of voiceover income to go in. So let's say we set a 2-year date. At that date, you take a review. What's worked? What hasn't? Have I made enough money? Can I do this? And ultimately, if you're in a position that you can progress, maybe it takes another year, maybe it takes another 2 years, but you're on a trajectory. Brilliant. The other thing you have to come to the realization of is if based on the efforts that you've done, you're not at that point, one of two things needs to happen. You seek advice, you look for help, and you change your plan, and you set another deadline, and you try to do it again. Or you just don't go full time. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but the reality is you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and chasing a dream can really ruin some people. For voiceover, the initial outlay can be quite expensive. So, just as an example, if you went out day one and you bought a professional sound booth, $3-4 grand, so you got a Lewitt, brand new, $600-700, computer, $800, monitors, but you see where I'm going, like you're nearing 10 grand here, and you've not earned a penny. This is before even paying on the pay-to-play website. So you need to make sure you can do the best that you can do with the resources that you have available. But ultimately, if your resources don't improve, if your prospects don't improve, you may just not have the ability to do this within a feasible timeline. And I always say to people, you can be a voiceover, and you can. You absolutely can. But it's about changing your plan. That's just it. And some people, as I say at the beginning of the video, gets kind of sold the dream and this is the lifestyle I want to live, without being able to put time commitment, effort, equipment, plans, all that sort of stuff into place. It's not something that just happens. And I think it's a really important thing that I never try to sell anybody the dream. I always try to give people the reality of what this job is, how hard it can be, the hours and time commitment that goes into that. If you can do that and you can work your life, re-engineer your life to allow you to do that stuff, more power to you. And reach out to the community, voiceover advice on Reddit and the community we have here, and anyone else that you can think of to get the support and advice to get to the goals that you want to do. But ultimately, as I've said many times before, that's what I'm going to put as the key to this bloody video, is you need to have the ability to do this. You need to have the time commitments, the resources, all the stuff to do it. So, just a brief recap, put a plan together, get a bank account, do not touch that money. Save for a couple of years and see what your regular income is. Build your client base of repeatable clients. Look at where to work. If you're confused about how you do this, I've got another video on voiceover marketing. Go check it out. I'll break it all down for you there. And then, as I say, be a voiceover artist. Go out there and make this your full-time gig if you can do it. I've done it. I make a really decent living. It took me probably more than 5 years to get to a point where I could do that transition. And the market was not as busy as it is right now. So, yeah, I hope you find that helpful. I hope that, I am trying to give people reality checks on this and when they can and what they could. But yeah, if you found it helpful, like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. As I say, jump over to the Reddit voiceover advice page and ask any questions to anyone on any of those pages. They really are helpful. The community out there is really helpful. And remember, you can be a voiceover artist. I'll see you in the next video.